Hello and welcome to another standard video. Today we're checking out this monoblack rampy control deck that's trying to ramp into Ugin, Eye of the Storms. The 7 mana planeswalker is incredibly powerful. As we cast it, we get to exile up to one target permanent that's one or more colors. A reminder that lands are typically colorless, so we cannot exile those. And then whenever we cast another colorless spell, we get to do the same. Ugin can +2 to gain 3 and draw a card, can make additional mana with a 0 ability, and it's not too difficult to set up the -11 ultimate, at which point we can search up all the colorless cards in our deck and cast them. So Ugin is the big payoff, helps us clean up any remaining permanents that our auto removal cannot answer, and that's where the black mana will come in handy, giving us access to some early removal with a Requiting Hex as an instant speed answer. Then we also have some more versatile answers like Strategic Betrayal, excellent against the mono-white aura decks, and also does double duty against graveyard decks by exiling the opponent's entire graveyard. And then we've got a few sweepers. Day of Black Sun, we can often cast for X=2 against some of the green decks and deal with most of their early creatures. And then at 5 mana, Deadly Cover-Up is a more reliable answer, although can sometimes be a turn slow. And then it's also a way for us to extract a problematic card out of the opponent's deck if they had it in their graveyard. So this can also be very useful against certain combo decks. And then a part of the reason why I wanted to play this deck is that I get to once again play with the Unholy Annex plus Fear-Dog Core. The core being a way to ramp into Ugin. It's colorless, so it can also trigger its ability, and it's also a changeling, so it also counts as a demon for the Unholy Annex, which now not only draws an extra card each turn, but also drains the opponent for 2 and gains us 2 life, which is perfect for a control deck, where you can now just sit back, relax, draw extra cards, slowly drain the opponent to death, so you don't really need to do anything else. So this takes care of our win condition. Occasionally we can also win the game with a demon token that the Ritual Chamber can generate, and then the core could also animate to hit for 4, but overall it's the Annex that's doing the heavy lifting here. And then in the mana base we have a few more potential win conditions, with a Realm of Ko making spirit tokens that are hard to block, and then Fountain Port can also make some fish tokens, but usually the Annex will win the game for us, and most opponents will just concede once we slam down an Ugin. And then we've got some cheaper ramp cards at 2 mana with Ironcrag as a legendary artifact, as well as the Terminus, so these are both one-offs. The UFO can be a way to put additional lands into play, pairs well with the extra card draw from the Annex, and also very synergistic with the Archway, which is a land that enters tapped, does make 2 mana, but also forces us to return a land from the battlefield back to our hand, which can sometimes be awkward, but it also means we have an extra land we can now put back in play with the UFO, so those pair very nicely. And then we also have some extra deserts to synergize with the Archway to surveil one multiple times, so that can also help smooth out our draws. And then all these 2 mana accelerants can maybe set up a turn 3 Hedron Archive, which can then make 2 colorless mana going forward, excellent for setting up Ugin on the following turn, and if we don't need it anymore we can always sacrifice it to draw 2 cards. And then to help out against the graveyard decks, besides Strategic Betrayal and occasionally the cover-up extracting a card out of their deck, we can also rely on the Soul Guide Lantern early on, and this can also just be cycled, and it's yet another colorless card to trigger Ugin, so also has some good synergies throughout. And then last but not least, one more demon, in case we don't draw the core, with the Demon Wall, can also help block some smaller creatures. So between the wall and the UFO, we can kind of soak up some smaller attacks until we buy ourselves enough time to set up one of our board wipes, so we don't take unnecessary damage. And then I think I've mentioned most of the lands already. Also have the full set of adventures in to gain 2 life when it enters. Can maybe pick it back up with Archway to gain 2 once again. And then it's also a town, so it can also maybe activate the UFO so it can increase its power and maybe deal some damage, so that can also come in handy. And then looking forward to the previews of Secrets of Strixhaven, we already got to see Withering Curse, 3 mana sorcery giving all creatures -2/-2, could be good enough in some standard metas, but if we gained life this turn, we get to destroy all creatures instead, so that could also maybe combo with Adventures in, where maybe on turn 3 now you can already wipe the board, so that's something else to keep in mind. But for now, let's jump in some games and see how the deck does. Okay, we're on the draw. Our hand is not exciting, but we do have a lot of interaction, so hopefully we'll draw some card draw. There we go with Annex. So now we're just missing the core, maybe an Ugin eventually. Facing blue-whites. Is it control? Spell snare. So this may not be the matchup for requiring Hex. Alright, never mind. Cecil, so it is just blue-black mid-range. Yeah, I don't really want Kaito to happen next turn. So I guess we'll wait. They could have also had a Phantom counterspell in hand. So Cecil down. So if they have a counterspell, I don't want Annex getting countered. I don't think they have Drowners, so it's gotta be Phantom Interference. So I'll wait until I can pay for it, since we do rely pretty heavily on the Annex. Sanctuary I can Hex. So that feels like a win. At this point they could have hardcast Kaito, so I don't think they have one. Could see Tidebinder here, yep. Definitely reason to sack the Lantern end of my turn. But now I get to resolve whatever I want, so that's nice. I think we start with... Could actually go for Ritual Chamber. Although I guess an opposing Hex is pretty likely. Still uses up all of my mana. Yeah, they have the Hex. That's fine. Can unlock the Annex later. Still at 22, so we can take a few hits. So now we can try the Annex. It's a special action, so that one they cannot counter with another Tidebinder. This one they can. And yep, opponent had another one. Means I also don't lose 2 life at least. And enchantments aren't permanently shut down at least, so next turn we get to draw again. But we're also probably going to wipe the board. And I can now pay for Phantom Interference. So yeah, opponent missing their own card draw engine, whether it's Enduring Curiosity or Kaito. And now the core gives us a demon. Alright, there's Kaito, so opponent still has a chance. Cover up is not an answer. Hedron Archive can eventually draw 2. Is that better than just bottoming and looking for something like Ugin? I guess I'll try it. And then the core could also technically pressure Kaito. Take 4. Kaito draws.
Information is its own weapon.
Gets rid of 2 lanes, so we'll see how the game develops. Deep Cavern Bats probably goes for cover up, but that's okay. Just looking for Ugin. Alright, they actually go for the Archive. Don't know if I want to spend 5 mana on a cover up to get the Archive back. Archway can at least surveil with the pylons. So what's the move? I guess I can send the core at Kaito. See if they have removal or want to block. Although if they can actually remove and destroy the core, that would be bad. Because then I don't have a demon anymore. If they just tap it down, that would be fine. They could still have a Shoot the Sheriff in hand, although it doesn't actually destroy the core, since it's also an outlaw. So yeah, then there's not too many answers they could have. I'll start by, I think, surveilling over gaining 2 life. will let us know what we're about to draw into. Don't need the realm. Yeah, this is kind of an interesting spot. Maybe I do just cover up and then play the archive, and then I may as well collect evidence. That works. And then what would be the most annoying? Maybe another Tidebinder. Alright, opponent has a Hex in hand. And then of course a full set of Curiosity, Kaito, Drowner, Bat. The usual suspects. So not enough mana to activate Core, but can play Archive. So we have to be getting close to another Ugin. Ooh, Enduring Curiosity off the top, that's brutal. Can at least get rid of it with a cover-up. Unless they draw another Bat first. A UFO can maybe block. Get rid of your Curiosity before it returns. They had another one in hand. Just making sure there's no counter spells for me to worry about. Okay, so now I could consider hitting Kaito with a Core. So next turn I can finish it off. Versus draw 2 with the Archive. Would not leave a ton of mana afterwards. Yeah, don't hate the attack. And then the UFO actually has 2 towns in play, so can also help finish off Kaito. Although I guess, yeah, that's gonna get hexed, so... Probably should have kept this in hand as a way to trigger Ugin. Day of Black Sun, still not an answer to Kaito, but can maybe set up Core to attack it down. At this point they might have drawn into another Kaito. We've seen almost half of our deck. Yeah, Planeswalkers are definitely a weak point of our strategy. Cecil's acceptable. And another UFO. Well, I think it's Day of Black Sun for 1, and then animate Core, or I can start by drawing 2. It's maybe better. Still no Ugin. Day of Black Sun. Opponent has 1 emblem. So if they have something like a Drowner, that could be bad. I think I still try this. And then send in the Core. That seems to work. Alright, we dealt with the first Kaito. Now I'll run out to UFO since we don't know for a fact that they have another Hex in hand. Demon Wall, another potential demon. So yeah, the Annex plus Core keeping us in the game. Let's draw 2. I swear I put Ugin in the deck. And now I'm no longer interested in attacking with a Core. Alright, and our opponent has seen enough, just too much card draw coming their way. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. What do we think of our hand? Needs a little bit of help, but the UFO is good with Archway. And then we'll find our black mana eventually. Opponent black-white. I'll still play the UFO here. And opponent on skeletons. So at 4 toughness, at least we survive the nowhere to run. So I can put in adventures in and then still play the core. And now we have core with double annex. Corpses of the Losts. The big payoff. So we are under some pressure. Pylons keep swamp on top, so I can put it in play with the UFO. So this turn I can go archive into annex, and next turn wipe the board. So the UFO is happy to trump whatever creature they give double strike to. Opponent's got the Sheltered by Ghosts to clear a path. Gets rid of the annex, which is effective in the sense that if I get it back, I need to spend the mana to unlock it once again. And another Sheltered by Ghosts, alright. Goes for archive, so they could have tried going for the core to shut off a potential sweeper, but I guess, yeah, they don't know that we're necessarily deep into black. So the cover-up is going to be effective. Opponent keeps the corpses in play. And then I can unlock the one in play versus play one from hand. I guess that's fine. Case of the Stash Skeleton, token also has hastes, and another Weaver. And that's fine. And there's Ugin, the big finish. So probably want to get rid of the Corpses of the Losts. Although, controlling the creatures first also makes some amount of sense. Yeah, I can get rid of the skeleton. This will be solved, but they won't be able to sacrifice it yet. So then Ugin shouldn't be under too much pressure. And there we go, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with a keepable hand. Got some graveyard hate, some creature interaction, bit of ramp. Can kick things off with the pylons. And then I probably don't need the terminus. Gonna hang on to the lantern. If our opponent is on a graveyard deck, we can maybe snipe a more important card. And looks like blue-red prowess. Okay. Hex is useful. So this turn can play the lantern. And then still keep up Hex. Token attacks. If they just hit for one, I'll take it. Possible we can set up Day of Black Sun instead. Does require double black. Alright, find the core. So now play a core, still keeps up Hex. If they play a pump spell, we can Hex. If not, we can be patient. The Hex is one of our better answers to a Slick Shot, which can represent a lot of damage out of nowhere. So having instant speed removal left over would be nice. So take 2. Opponent's got a full bore. Alright. Can let that resolve, see if they have anything else. Also possible they have a hexproof trick. Turn inside out. Alright, I guess I want to respond, or do I? Sure, I guess we can let this resolve still. They're both 6 powered. And looks like they had a hexproof trick left. Magic damper. Alright, take 15. But now we can wipe the board. X equals 1 will suffice, so I could go Iron Crag into Day of Black Sun and then pick up my adventures in. The life gain seems slightly more important than the extra surveil. Strategic Betrayal, not irrelevant, can exile their graveyard before they get value off the Storm Chaser's talent. Although I would prefer to also get a creature with it. So then, now, I guess I could Archway, pick up the Pylons, and Hedron Archive. Not as good as just drawing an Ugin. Can eventually draw 2, I suppose. But even the Unholy Annex would be great with a core. Spending 4 mana, eventually 6 mana to draw 2 feels a little underwhelming. And then I think I just pass, hang on to the Betrayal. Opponent does nothing. Find a Hex. So then I can once again surveil. Say no to the swamp. Could get in for 4. I guess that's fine. And there's Annex. So let's make sure we don't die to some random burn spells. Play the Annex. And then could technically unlock the Ritual Chamber as well. Sure, why not? Our opponent's hand's gotta be full of pump spells at this point. So we could still die out of nowhere. But they haven't even leveled this up. And there's Ugin, so yeah, I guess I'm not complaining. Play Ugin, exile your talents. Can draw more cards, gain more life, and our opponent scoops it up. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. This hand's lacking some ramp with double Ugin in hand. Do have some surveil, some early removal. But yeah, still missing a couple pieces. So I think I would rather mulligan. Okay, this time at least we have the archive to go with Ugin. Now the question, do I keep the Hex? If I don't, I'm probably gonna get a run over. So then I guess I can get rid of Alliance. Realm of Ko is a mana sink. Drawback is that we cannot Hex on turn 1. Alright, so it is kind of an aggro deck. Turn 2 Cub. So we'll eventually need a sweeper. I think I still gotta Hex the Cub, since a turn 3 Ouroboros would just be too much pressure here. And then, yeah, we'll see what happens. Another Cub, of course. Can't play the pylons to surveil. They have Black Sun, should be useful. Although Ouroboros still a concern. They're playing blue, so they're also going to have the Quantum Riddler. Mockingbird, copy Badger Mole. So now every Earth-banded land taps for 3. But yeah, that's more stuff that dies to our Day of Black Sun. So unless their last card's a counterspell, we should be okay. Opponent might tap out to activate Bill. Okay, so that's the difference between Day of Black Sun at 4 mana against all these 2-drops and Cover Up at 5 mana. It's the difference between living and dying. And our opponent scoops it up, I'll take it. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. Do need a little bit of help maybe in the early turns, but we have turn 3 core, maybe turn 4 cover up. We'll see if that's good enough. Facing presumably the blue-white artifact deck. Not a great matchup, I'll admit, since they can mostly ignore our removal and eventually go over the top with their synthesizer. While I can exile synthesizer with Ugin, they can also interact with my ramp artifacts. And then, yeah, the tokens themselves I cannot exile since they're colorless, although I can sweep them up with cover up. And yep, turn 3 synthesizer on cue. So that's going to put a lot of pressure on us. They can remove my artifacts while making constructs. So, could be better off just playing the Annex here. At least I'll get to draw a card. And then next turn I can double spell core plus the Terminus at least. Alright, Battlefront can hit multiple permanents. And they got another synthesizer. Yeah, that's bad. So, we'll see. Ugin has a lot of cleaning up to do. But I also need to make sure I don't die in the meantime. And now if at any point they can tutor up a Fire Crystal, we're super dead, because they can just make a bunch of hasty tokens. Requiting Hex does help, because I can now core, Terminus, and then still Hex. We now get to gain life off the Annex. And I guess I'll wait on hexing, might throw off their math. And then UFO is something I could maybe still cast with the mana from Ugin. 4, 5, 6, 7. So yeah, next turn I could technically Ugin already. Although opponent's got the Repurposing Bay, so that's gonna get the Fire Crystal. So yeah, they had pretty much the perfect curve here. We were close to having the perfect draw as well. Because next turn Ugin could have come down, exile Synthesizer, play another colorless spell, exile another Synthesizer. Cover Up needs to clean up the constructs. But yeah, opponent actually sacking the 2-drop, so either they don't have Fire Crystal or they have one in hand. And they couldn't tutor it up. So now gets Perilous Snare, which does prevent me from maybe casting Ugin. No, opponent goes for the Annex. Alright, so what does that mean? Probably still worth it to Hex to prevent 10 damage. Because next turn I'm going to have to Cover Up. This is now also active. Yeah, that's also pretty good actually, since they can make extra copies of whatever they want. Yeah, I don't think we're surviving this, unfortunately. So as much as I want to play Ugin, I don't think we survive if we do, even though I can exile 2 synthesizers. They still have plenty of power. So I can Cover Up, and I could go core into Cover Up. But since we haven't dealt with the synthesizer itself, they can easily rebuild. So we're just delaying the inevitable. But yeah, as I've said, this is a pretty rough matchup. Any deck that can continuously generate more creatures, especially colorless creatures, is going to be tough for a deck that relies on board wipes and a planeswalker. So synthesizer number 3. If you are playing best of 3 for some reason and want to improve this matchup, you could run Intimidation Tactics as a 1-mana discard effect that can hit artifacts as well. That's one of the better answers, and then the rest, of course. Alright, I guess our opponent still had the Fire Crystal left in the deck after all. Maybe they didn't want to sacrifice a synthesizer to go get it, since that was the only option at the time. Alright, so on to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. We've got a decent hand. Turn 2 Ironcrag, turn 3 Archive, turn 4 Ugin, at least that's the plan. Sprinkle in a Lantern for a bit of graveyard hate. So then I do still want to find an untapped land, ideally. Adventure Sin will do. Can wait on the Lantern. Play it alongside an Ironcrag, perhaps. Blue-green. Saving a Lantern can also be a way of triggering Ugin, so again, I'm not in a hurry to play it. Possible opponents on a graveyard deck, and yeah, Overgrown Tomb points in that direction, so Lantern's one of our best cards. So, could potentially still wait a turn on Lantern, since they can't combo until turn 4. And then Terror of the Peaks, currently the scariest card. Formidable Speaker gets Kivero. Discards Arden. That's now our target. And gets Wistfulness, which could blow up our artifact. But yeah, we can already play Ugin, so... Surveil, say no to the Realm. Exile your Speaker. And make some mana. Play Lantern, exile Town Greeter. Exile Arden, and have a Lantern in play, which they now need to get rid of. And in response, we'll exile their graveyard. So opponent's pretty far from comboing, but it's gonna take us a while to also close out the game. But yeah, opponent does not want to play anymore. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with a decent hand. So we're looking for something to ramp into, ideally an Ugin. Got some early removal. UFO can maybe set up a turn 3 Archive. May as well keep up Hex. And the Llanowar Elves we can take out. So we have land 4, Cover Up is probably going to be effective in the matchup. Although, you know, wiping the board is good and all, but eventually we'll need to find something like an Unholy Annex or an Ugin to take over. But between Day of Black Sun and Cover Up, we can buy ourselves a lot of time. So this is your typical Badger Mold deck. So, can put in a land, play Archive. Day of Black Sun for 1 could also cleanly take care of Pollinator without losing the UFO, but I'm expecting bigger things that I want to destroy. Opponent is actually playing white, maybe for the Bright Glass Gearhulk. And they seem to have their sights set on Hedron Archive. Nope, just Ouroboros. Alright, so pretty much what we expected. Ugin needs one more land. So, yeah, for now, I guess Day of Black Sun for 4. Cover-ups maybe a bit more flexible later. Can also extract something out of the deck. But yeah, if we can slam down an Ugin, exile their only creature, we're going to be super far ahead. And there's a Badger Mole. And a Soul Guide Lantern, that's fine. And that also points towards the Gear Hulk as kind of a 1-mana artifact they can search up. Opponent's going to immediately sacrifice to draw. Alright, I'll take an Annex. Prefer that over Ritual Chamber. The Demon token they can also maybe exile with a Seam Rip. And we just want to find a land for Ugin. So they're back up to 4 mana, 5 mana even with a Cub. No double white. Looks like they're maybe thinking about Nature's Rhythm, which is also something we could maybe exile with Collect Evidence. Yep, Rhythm for 3. So maybe they have a Reclamation Sage to blow up the archive. Just another Cub. Alright, so we can Ugin, exile a Cub, and then I should still be relatively safe. A mana short of playing the archive. If we had a core in hand, could have made 3 mana, played it, and exiled the second Cub. So they do have 6 mana here. Can maybe Nature's Rhythm get a 4-drop. But if they get another Ouroboros, they still can't finish off Ugin, and next turn we just wipe the board. Alright, Rhythm for 4 from hand. And gets Ouroboros. Opponent's not even going to bother attacking Ugin. Alright, so is there any way I can set up Collect Evidence to get rid of Nature's Rhythm? I would need to get 3 more mana value in the graveyard. I guess Hedron Archive could do that. So if I sack Archive, I guess I can use Ugin's mana. Then we can Collect Evidence and get rid of double Nature's Rhythm. So 3, 4, 5... Not enough mana to... Well, never mind, I can play a land still. Play the core and then cover up. I guess may as well exile the Ouroboros while we're here.
One step in strategy.
And goodbye, Nature's Rhythm. Opponent's hand is Craterhoof and Gear Hulk, which they cannot cast. Could have also exiled the Earthbended land and then it would not have come back. But just getting rid of those Nature's Rhythms seemed slightly more relevant. And yeah, opponent may have disconnected. There should still be some Earthbending triggers on the stack. But yeah, I don't think our opponent's coming back from this. 2 uncastable cards in hand, facing down an Ugin. And now we can actually start draining them with the Annex and the core. Another one coming up soon. Alright, there's the triggers. Opponent untaps, but I don't think they're here anymore. But yeah, the playoff cover-up, exiling a land, is especially useful against a mono-green landfall deck, where you can maybe exile all the opponent's forest out of their deck. And then, yeah, you don't need to worry about landfall when there's no lands left. And we get to untap. Gain some life. Draw some cards. And then is it time for the triple Annex? I think double Annex plus a demon is probably a little bit better. So then next turn we can animate the core, hit for 10, and then maybe drain for 3 more. Could also ultimate an Ugin, although there's not that many exciting colorless cards left to get. Although you could also just get an extra Ugin with it to replace itself. Alright, and there we have it. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. We have Ugin, bit of ramp, and of course core plus Annex is great, even have a demon wall. Although with my lands, things might get a little awkward since I cannot actually play a 2-drop on turn 2. Facing blue-black. And Demolition Fields, actually very effective against Archway. So, yeah, this might be my chance to resolve the Annex. Opponent consults. And then next turn we can pair the core with it as well. So Dimir control seems more controlling than just a mid-range deck if they're running Demolition Field. Scrambots creates a lander. Okay, so I've got free reign to resolve the core, and then could play a Demon Wall as well. Or we can keep on ramping towards Ugin, which is maybe more relevant. Take 3. And stock up. So, yeah, we'll see. I'm sure our opponent will have some counter spells for us to worry about. But I can resolve Ugin here, so then if they don't have Planeswalker removal, they might struggle to deal with it. Might want to wait on the Realm, since they have that Demolition Field. So play Ugin, there's sadly nothing to exile. Could make some mana, play UFO to protect it. I think I just want to draw cards since they're more likely to remove it than to attack it down. So then I want to get some value.
Insight is vital to success.
But yeah, opponent's got a lot of permanents they need to deal with.
Undisciplined strike.
Possible they can extract Ugin out of the deck with cover up. So then we don't want Ugin to end up in the graveyard. Can maybe exile it with our own Lantern as well. Opponent passes with a bunch of mana up. Okay, so I think Ugin is drawing. Find another Ugin. Can get an Archive in play.
Preparation.
And then we could make a Demon, could play a Demon Wall. Also don't hate playing the Lantern here, again to stop collect evidence.
Power belongs to the patient.
So, yeah, at this point maybe unlock the chamber. Make them use a removal spell. Can take 7 if they animate Restless Reef to attack Ugin. They had a Feed the Cycle. That's too bad. So they only have 4 mana value in the graveyard, so at least cover-up's not an imminent concern. Scry with a Temple. And now Rupture to mill half of my deck, I see. So that's their plan. So, okay, that happens. I guess now I might want to exile my own graveyard with Lantern as well to stop a Monument from winning the game. So, can get another Ugin down, or we can double up on Annex. I guess I could do both. And less concerned about Realm getting destroyed now. So can play Ugin, make more mana, play another Annex, something along those lines.
I heed. freedom must be restored. I know many arcane rituals.
And then I could play some creatures out, although they're pretty likely to get destroyed as well. I guess I don't have anything else going on. So we drain for 4 now. So that is a real clock. Could also attack with the core if we want. Yeah, there's a monument. So wait for them to exhaust. And then use Lantern. Ooh, never mind. Exile each opponent's graveyard. So it doesn't work against monuments. Alright, that's too bad. So I guess the only way I could have prevented this is had I drawn cover up sooner, I could have collected evidence, exiled my entire graveyard to it, and then Monument would not have done it here. Alright, GG's. Yeah, was hoping Lantern could exile any graveyard, but it's specifically an opponent's, which is weird because when it enters it can exile a card from any graveyard, including our own. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. Got a pretty balanced hand. Excited about Annex plus Core, as usual. This was really the reason why I wanted to try this build in the first place. After having a lot of fun in the Mardu control deck. Opponent black-white. Alright. Pick up my lands. Be careful not to play Archway on turn 1, because you're gonna regret it. So Mardu could be the mirror match of sorts. Kick things off with the Annex, and then next turn we can core plus maybe something else. Yeah, looks to be the Mardu control deck. Our opponent might actually be favored in a way with the inevitable defeat, being able to exile my enchantments. I guess we have Ugin to do the same. Either way, core plus Ironcrag looks good. I guess better would have been Ironcrag plus core on the off chance that our opponent plays a creature, but I kind of doubt it. Hex deals with a demon token, should that matter. Another Annex. Opponent still missing the demon. Alrighty, and then these lands with activated abilities are also going to be useful later. Our opponent probably has their own hex for my demon token, so I don't think I should bother. Core could sneak in an attack for 4. Don't actually hate that here. I do want to leave myself in a position where I can hex an opposing demon. So I don't think I want to tap out completely. Suppose I can Archway. There's Ugin. Got a discard to hand size. I guess a swamp can go now. Day of Black Sun can still be an answer to Ketramos. Can remove Indestructible. So if they have their own core, we play on. If they don't, yeah, opponent just having to rely on the demon. So they're gonna lose 4 and then they're just dead on board. Alright, and that'll do it. Sweet. So yeah, we got to see this mono-black Ugin control deck in action. The black cards give us some much needed interaction early on against all those creature decks, and then the late game is kind of taken care of by Ugin and the Annex plus Core combo. So overall, I've been pretty happy with the deck. Of course, we'll have some weaknesses, especially to haste creatures if we don't have any instant speed removal. The artifact deck seems like a bad matchup, and a fully dedicated blue-white control deck could also give us some issues. So there are definitely some harder matchups out there, but as long as we're facing creatures, we're usually happy. So yeah, that's going to do it for today's gameplay. I want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.